Faithfulness, not success. Faithfulness, not success, is an often repeated dictum that Mother Teresa of Calcutta would say frequently. You know, as Americans, we measure our success. We measure our efforts. In the medical field today, it's all about numbers. You have to see X number of patients, and there are way too many people to see and give them a fair amount of time each. In manual labor, they measure how well you've cleaned this or cooked that or cut that, and in anything in between, it's how much money did you bring in, how much projects did you get granted or awarded. Everything is measured and quantified so that they know they're getting something out of what they're paying you to do, understandably. And as Americans, we very much live up to that. I mean, it feels good when you mow your lawn and you look back and it's all clean and like, I did that, you know, you washed your car or swept your floor or did the dishes. There's some sense of accomplishment, you know. We want to measure our efforts. But what happens when we dedicate so much time and energy and nothing seems to happen? What happens when you put your kids through Catholic school and sacrificed immensely financially for years and years, and now they don't even go to Mass, and your grandkids aren't even baptized? What happens when you come to Mass week after week and yet still your loved one gets cancer and dies? What happens when you pray every day and still mental illness or addiction creeps into the family, or there's a tragic suicide? We make all this effort and this time and energy in prayer and the practice of our faith, and we're not immune to the same problems everyone else has, even the non-believers. We're just as vulnerable and capable of suffering and sickness and being impacted by the pandemic and economics. What's the point? What's the point if we can't see the fruit? In today's first reading for Ezekiel, Ezekiel knows he's going to the Israelites and that they're hard-hearted and they're not going to listen to him. They're not going to respond. They're not going to act as God wants them to. But God says, go anyway. It's like, why? You know, you're God. They're not going to respond. Why do I need to waste my time? Faithfulness, Ezekiel. Faithfulness, not success. You need to be true to who you are. You are my prophet. It's not about how they respond. It's about how you are. Because of who you are. Because of who I am in you. Faithfulness, not success. So let them revolt. Even though he preaches again, let them remain obstinate of heart and hard of face. But God sends them anyway. Because it's about faithfulness, not success. Sometimes we can be discouraged in our efforts to be faithful to the Lord because not only of the lack of response for those we're trying to help and bring into the faith, our children, grandchildren, our spouse, our siblings, our neighbors, our friends, but we can be deeply discouraged in our effort to be faithful because of our own shortcomings, because of our own faults and failings. How often people come into the confessional and say, Father, forgive me for I've sinned. It's like I confess the same sins every time. And I go, well, that's better than creating new ones. God doesn't want you to be creative in that department. Like, don't come up with new ones every other week or month. Just keep working on those. Right? But it's that faithfulness, right? In spite of our brokenness, for the person struggling with mental illness, the faithfulness to work with their therapists and to recover and get special care when they have a crisis, or the person with addiction. It's not how many times they relapse, but how many times they go back to care and treatment and AA or their support groups. It's not how many times we sin, but how often we go back to confession and try again. The evil one will discourage us either because those we're trying to influence are not influenced at all, or to point out and call us hypocrites because of our shortcomings and our failings, or because people just take us for granted. We can take our faith for granted. People can take us for granted. They don't appreciate what we've done for them. Years can go by of selfless, sacrificial effort, and it's like they never even noticed. They never even care. Or that dagger in the heart, if we dedicate so much of our time and our effort toward this person or that person, and we get nothing in response. Nothing at best. Or infidelity of some kind at worst. And we get discouraged. It happened to Jesus. in his own town. Imagine the discouragement. The people saw him grow up. They knew how good he was. And here he is performing miracles. He gets there, he's like, who's this? This is the carpenter's son. That poor manual labor, ignorant kid of Joseph, right? The son of Mary. So what? Who cares? What does it matter? Can you imagine? I imagine if James and John said to him at that moment, shall we call fire down upon them? He would have probably paused for a moment. He would have like, no, let's just keep moving on. But I thought about it. And it's his hometown. Think about Jesus on the cross. The vast majority of Jews in his time and in Jerusalem did not convert after his passion, death, and even resurrection. Think about him on that cross, naked, bleeding, crucified, unable to breathe, and they're mocking him. If you're the Son of God, take yourself down off that cross. Save yourself and the bad thief, and save us. Think of the frustration. And yet he's doing it for that person mocking him. For those walking by, just like another day, another crucifixion. So what? They don't even turn their heads. Big deal. Because they were crucified in a major pathway that led into Jerusalem. So everyone could see and fear the Roman Empire and its power. That would be you next, you who are non-Roman citizens. And people just walked by like nothing. And here's the Son of God dying on the cross. Oh, what I would give to be there. What we would give to be there. And people walked by like just another day. Imagine the agony of Jesus. Faithfulness, not success. Mother Teresa repeated that time and again. They asked her, how did you help so many millions of people? She said, I don't know. I just helped one person that I saw, one at a time. I saw them, they needed it. I held them, I fed them, I bathed them. That was it. I just did one person at a time. I didn't go into this to change the world and to save millions. I just went to save the one person Jesus put in front of me. And he multiplied it. On the days that she said she had the most work, instead of doing one holy hour in the morning, she would do two. So, well, I'm an American. If you take 2 hours out of a 24-hour period instead of one, that's less time to do more work. That doesn't add up. But Mother Teresa knew faithfulness, not success. It's the work of the Lord in and through us. It's not about what we can do. We'll always fall short. Paul experienced that himself. With that thorn in his flesh, whatever it was, we don't know. He was limited. He was held back. I would rather boast gladly of my weakness in order that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Faithfulness, not success. It's not about their reaction or lack of response. It's not about our brokenness and repeated same confessions. It's even not about those who take us for granted. Those are all ways that the evil one does what he can to discourage us so we would just shut up and no longer bear witness to Christ. Just go away. You're wasting your time. That's the evil one. But Christ stayed on the cross because of who he was and is. And he calls us to do the same, to be faithful, to not worry about our success. I remember reading about one church father in the desert. He was trying to preach to these Muslim peoples, and he was there for literally 20 years. And in 20 years of prayer and fasting and sharing with the people, not one person converted. Not one. And the church still canonized him. Faithfulness, not success. He was faithful in spite of the lack of response. In his prayer, his fasting, his compassion and kindness toward those who would not convert. Faithfulness, not success. If we believe this, if we witness it in the person of Jesus, if we know who he is and who we are because of it, then we're not going to quantify our successes. As a priest of 16 years, I can tell you it can be very discouraging if I try to quantify my successes. And so I just try to be faithful. It's the Lord's work at the end of the day, not mine. And I'm that poor, blunt instrument in his hand that's practically useless, but he chooses to use it anyway. Paul's saying, therefore, I am content with my weaknesses, with insults, with hardships, persecutions, and constraints for the sake of Christ. For when I am weak, It is then that I am strong. Faithfulness, not success. That's why we're here. And that's why we keep going. To confession, to prayer, to others with compassion, because it's not about their reaction or their response. It's about who He is and who we are because of Him.